Alright, hopefully this background noise isn't going to be too heinous. I just wanted to do a quick review of this motorcycle. This is a 2017 BMW R9T Racer. A good friend of mine lent it to me for the night, so I just wanted to go over a couple of differences. After having mine for 7 months now and having ridden other variations of the R9T, wanted to kind of go over the similarities, the differences. You know, if any of you guys are considering getting one of these motorcycles. So right off the bat, we'll talk about the similarities. Obviously it's the same platform, same engine, frame, all that is just dressed different. It's pretty much the same platform as my R9T, 1170cc opposing twin boxer engine, 110 horsepower, all that stuff. So as far as differences, you know, we got the clip-on handlebars, we've got the front fairing, the rear sets. The regular R9T Roadster doesn't have the pegs as far back because it's more of an upright riding position. It's a little more comfortable that way. I've ridden it for maybe 10 miles, maybe a little more at this point. Feeling a little bit of fatigue in my shoulders and in my back. This probably isn't a long distance motorcycle, but that's not really what it was built for. You can see it's a work of art. It's a beautiful machine. I think, in my opinion, it's probably the best looking R9T in the entire lineup. They discontinued this model for 2020, I believe. And so it's no longer available. You can still find them, obviously, but you know, the price is just going to keep going up on these guys, which I think is cool. I mean, it's a pretty iconic motorcycle. It's definitely not one that you buy for long trips. It's more of one that you have for the sheer joy of owning this, you know, a cafe racer style motorcycle. As far as modern cafes go, this is definitely, in my opinion, the king. And you know, honestly, it's surprisingly more comfortable than I remember. If you watch my review of my motorcycle when I got it, I talked a little bit about riding one of these when they premiered in 17. And I only rode it about, you know, 6 to 8 miles on a test ride in Daytona, Florida. And I could tell right away, like, this is a pretty uncomfortable bike. It's not one that you would want to take on long trips. It's not one that you would really like. You know, country riding is probably fine if you keep it to, you know, 150 miles or so. Anything after that, you're really probably going to be feeling it the next day, which to me, that's fine. My Ducati Monster has a very similar feel. It's got clip-ons that are low on the forks, and the rear sets puts me in a hunched over position. As far as riding on the highway, you know, that's kind of a perfect, comfortable position. The windscreen does a little bit more than you would expect, but not a whole lot. But first impressions, after having spent some more time in the saddle on this thing, you know, I really enjoy it. I think the seat's probably a little more comfortable than mine. Yeah, it's a looker. It is 100% here for beauty. It's one of the best looking motorcycles on the road today, in my opinion. And it really is, it's pretty awesome to ride too. I mean, it's an R9T. You're not, you know, getting any lacking in power or, you know, handling or anything like that. It's just dressed differently. In fact, you know, being hunched down and being lower, you get a little bit more of a feel for the road around corners. It does really well around corners in town, outside of town. You know, you're getting the same gas mileage. The fairing doesn't really break any of that up or anything like that. So this model has the black rear swing arm, which I really like. I kind of wish that mine had the black one. It's got the gunmetal looking one. I don't know the exact color of that. And this has a silver frame too, which kind of gives it a different accent when you're looking at it from the side. And this one is basically stock. He is missing a mirror. Unfortunately, there's some terrible people in this world, and he had this motorcycle stolen from him, and miraculously was able to get it back. Very minimal damage, changed the heads out and that sort of thing, but hadn't been able to replace the mirror yet. But for all intents and purposes, I think that this is the best looking R9T that's out on the market. I have no qualms with the way that this handles, with the way that it rides through town. This is definitely one you stop at every light and people are looking at it like, what in the world is that? You know, you just don't see them around, and you definitely will see less of them now since they're no longer being manufactured. Just a fantastic motorcycle. Definitely one that I'd eventually like to own. I had my eye on it for a while, but I figured, you know, either the Scrambler or the Roadster are going to be a little bit better fit for me, and I was right. You know, the Roadster I think is definitely the R9T for me. Definitely the one that I would have chosen above all of them as a daily rider. Meaning I ride as much as I can, but I also take it on trips. You probably don't want to put a whole bunch of mileage on a motorcycle like this, or maybe you do, I don't know. But for me, I would buy one of these and use it for an around town bike, weekend around town bike, you know, minimal country road riding, just to keep miles off of it, because like I said, the value of these things is going to continue going up. So if you find a good deal on one of these, in my opinion, I'd jump on it, just because, like I said, the value's going up, but it's also an iconic motorcycle, right? You're not really going to see something as close to, you know, a custom cafe racer that comes from the factory. You know, there's a lot of manufacturers that are doing cafe bikes like this, but none of them, that, in my opinion, that have the nostalgia and really, I mean, BMW nailed it as far as what is, I think, the essence of a cafe racer. This machine is beautiful. It turns heads, but it also performs, and it's one of those that you can jump on. It's got to be reliable. You know, unfortunately, with the vintage cafe racers, having experience with them, you know, you constantly got to work on them. You know, you don't know if they're going to run one day to the next. You know, unless my dad built them. You're not going to have that problem with this thing. These engines are super reliable. And to be honest, if I owned this bike, I would probably ride it a lot more than I mentioned I would. It's like my R9T, it's like any of the R9T models. You pull up somewhere to a bike meet, and you're going to be talking to every single person there. They're going to wonder what it is, and, you know, why it looks the way it does, what did you do to it, you know, but it comes like this from the factory. It's just a very beautiful piece of machinery. So this one's got the mag wheels on it, which, you know, obviously is a personal preference between, you know, spoke wheels, mag wheels. The benefit here is that you don't have to run tubes. It's a tubeless wheel, so, you know, if you get a flat or a puncture, you can patch it, air it up, and go. Not the case with the tubeless wheel, or with the tubed wheel, with those spoke wheels that I have on mine. Now the Scrambler and the Urban GS are going to have the tubeless spoke wheels, which I really wish BMW would make that front wheel from the Urban GS, from the GS, from the Scrambler in a 17-inch. So if anybody from BMW is watching this, please make a 17-inch tubeless spoke wheel. I will buy them immediately. So anyway, so at first I actually didn't really like these mag wheels, and I don't really know why. It just kind of wasn't my thing until I you know, rode next to this, until I've seen it close up, and especially with this HP Corsa high-mounted exhaust that really shows it off. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful wheel, and it looks really, really cool and sinister and beefy when you're riding next to it. So yeah, that about sums it up for this thing. The R9T Racer, if you're looking at it, do it, definitely, because they don't sell them anymore. They're going to become increasingly hard to find, and it's a showstopper. So yeah, you guys ride safe.